Hey guys, really happy to be here on stage. Like, as Eric mentioned before, we literally decided to do this event like 5 weeks ago. And you met Eric, like, he's Canadian, he's overly optimistic, and I am too. And so we said like, okay, it's 5 weeks, but we have the affiliate conference, so let's just do it. And he was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And like after a week, we thought like we might end up on the FML panel here. Started all with, we sent out the first email to the email list of iStack, and we landed like 5 sales after one email. And Eric asked me, like, Patrick, is this like normal you build a lot of funnels? I was like, yeah, sure, that's totally normal. So didn't want to scare him. Then 4 weeks ago, I came here to this location to take a look at it, how it looks, how to arrange table and everything. And the project manager was like, when did you start planning it? And we're like, yeah, 5 weeks ago. And she was like, huh, interesting. Like usually people plan an event like 1 year in advance. It was like, okay, that's very motivating. But anyways, I'm really happy that we got together so many great people in this room. And even though we had to figure out a lot of logistics and getting people on board, this all really couldn't be possible without the amazing speakers we had. Like Tom Bartkey, for example, he decided to not go with his family to New York to be here. So I think it's really, we should give a round of applause for all the amazing speakers we had. Cool, so I know this was a really long day, lots of information, lots of input, and what I will do now is not like a big concept talk about Facebook pixel for whatever. I think you learned a lot enough about that kind of stuff. So the title of my talk is Smart Facebook Hacks that you can implement before you leave Berlin. Right, so this talk will be about a few straight-to-the-point strategies you can deploy immediately. So let's take a look at how a campaign is built. That's how every Facebook campaign looks like. You have 3 different phases. You launch a campaign, then if you found something that works, you scale it, and at the end of the day, you optimize it. That's what you actually always do. So that's like the 10,000-foot view. So what we'll do now is looking at specific hacks within each and every of those 3 phases. The launch phase, the scale phase, and when you finally optimize the campaign. So Facebook marketing is essentially about just hitting the right audience with the right ad. That's what you can sum it up with. But here's the thing, a lot of people get audience building completely wrong, or they're not dedicating enough work and care about building a high quality audience. And then when we're looking over campaigns from like businesses, they say like, fuck Facebook, it doesn't work for us. If you look at the campaigns, I mean, the Facebook algorithm is actually pretty simple, unquote, or Facebook marketing is pretty simple. You have to feed the algorithm the right data, and then it does like kind of everything by itself. But if you miss feeding the right data, if you miss building the right audience, everything just falls apart. I mean, there is no way that you can just launch a profitable campaign. If you generate leads, your CPCs go up, your CPM goes up. So it's really important to build a high-quality audience. Now, this is not a beginner conference, and it's not a big secret that custom audiences, lookalike audiences, that's what makes Facebook so special. That's why Facebook is so powerful. And with the custom audiences, for those of you who don't know what it is, just a quick recap, you just literally go to Mark Zuckerberg with let's say your 3,000 customers that you have, and you say like, hey Mark, I really want to grow my business this year. Show me like 30,000 people, 100,000 people are just like those people here. So Mark takes that list, he runs it through the algorithm, and he creates a lookalike audience. So he kind of clones the initial seed audience. And that's why it's so important to build a high-quality custom audience. This is what a lot of people are just getting wrong. They were just not focusing on it. And so with the high-quality custom audience, that's really absolutely essential to create a lookalike audience that converts. If your custom audience is shitty, your lookalike audience is shitty as well. So the big question is, how do you build a high-quality custom audience? So now that we figured out that seed audiences really matter. I mean, if there's one thing that you should take away from my talk, then it's really this. The question is how do you do it? Now, there are some really conventional ways that you can like rate everywhere, upload your customer list. That's true. That's a fantastic start. But there is more that you can do. For example, instead of like grabbing all your customer base, go for your premium segments, especially if you build sales funnels and you have multiple products in place. I mean, who knows Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels? Okay. Who knows the value ladder? Okay, so the value ladder is kind of a model to structure products, to do a product strategy. And at the end of the day, you kind of think, okay, what's the one thing I want to sell all day long? Like if you speak to high-ticket coaches, they say like, there's one thing that I have, it's my $10,000 coaching program. If I could, I want to sell that all day long. But the problem is selling a $10,000 program to a cold audience, that's like really hard. So what do? You build up a sales funnel so you can just get buyers, then you scan them, you upsell them, and at the end of the day, you have a high-quality customer base that you can sell the high-ticket program to. But here's really the thing. You have to sell or you have to create low-ticket products to get to that high-ticket customer segment. So really, if you work with sales funnels and there's like one really interesting customer segment, high-ticket buyers or whatever, create a custom audience and a lookalike audience based on them and not the entire customer base. Also, what Thomas Bartke said before, you can also, like if you run e-com offers or if you have a e-commerce business, go for like a high customer lifetime value. Don't say like, I just want to reach out to all the people or create a lookalike audience based on all the 3,000 people in my customer base. No, don't do that. Look for a high average customer lifetime value, and if you look inside your Facebook Ads Manager and the Power Editor, you will see that Facebook actually just launched a new feature that allows you to do just that. So go for premium segments. Number 2, focus on specific product categories. Let's take an e-com example. You run a beauty store and you have multiple segments. And there's like one product that you really want to sell all day long. It's an anti-aging cream. So when you scale a campaign, sure, you can create a custom audience, a lookalike audience based on the entire customer segment. But you can also go into your CRM and say like, okay, all the people who purchased this anti-aging cream or a similar product within that particular segment. I want to put those into custom audience and then I turn them into a lookalike audience. Third thing, this is what a lot of people miss, play around with different time frames. You can say like, sure, I want to have all my customer list inside a custom audience or a lookalike audience. But what you can do instead is also segmenting it into people who purchased the last 7 days, 30 days, and 180. And one thing you will see, you will get different results depending on what time frame you select. So really, if you want to work with audiences, for God's sake, do that. Split this different time frames. Now, this is another cool method, like if you're running a local business, it's credit goes to this strategy to Chris from the Facebook Ad Buyers group. A great group, by the way, you should definitely join for like really high-level hacks. Tim Burt is running it. So here's the problem if you want to promote, let's say you have a sushi restaurant and you want to get more foot traffic to a sushi restaurant. I mean, it would be definitely smart to say like, hey, I want to reach out to all the people in a particular zip code and all the people who are interested in sushi. The problem is you might end up reaching like 5,000 people on Facebook. And as we all know, Facebook prefers large audiences. If you go for a small audience, your clicks tend to go up. If your audience is bigger, then your CPC and your CPM tends to go down. So here's what Chris came up with. You take a video and you push it into the market, and the only targeting that you do is the zip code, meaning that you reach a lot of people who just hate sushi or they love it, but it doesn't matter because you have a large audience, and video views are really cheap. So if you have a good campaign, you can get video views at like 1-2 cents. This is not an issue. So what you do next is after you pushed a campaign into the market, there are certain people who will drop off after like 3 seconds, but there are a lot of people who will stick like to the end or will at least hit the 75% mark. So what you do next is you grab that 75% of the audience, you dump it into a custom audience, and then you create a lookalike audience based on that. And with the sushi restaurant, you can either run campaigns to the custom audience that you created with this video, or you run campaigns based on the lookalike audience. Fantastic strategy. Third thing, Google AdWords, Facebook's biggest enemy. And that's like ads that you see in the loan niche, second most expensive keyword on Google. $44 CPC. For every click on Google AdWords, you have to pay $44 on average. And I think it's a rocket science to see that it's impossible to scale a campaign with like a $44 click price. But here's what you can do. Google AdWords is commercial traffic. It's high quality traffic. It's probably like the highest quality traffic you can get. It's expensive, but it's great. So what you can do is going for really relevant keywords in your niche. You know that people are looking for, I don't know what you're selling. You know they're looking for a really specific keyword. Those are your buyers. So you use Google AdWords as the seed audience, and you run a little bit of traffic to build up that seed audience, that custom audience. And once you're done with it, once you gathered enough data, you create a lookalike audience based on that. So instead, if you're just really starting from scratch or you're like in a really tiny niche, it's a fantastic strategy because Google AdWords, you cannot scale with that, or at least you will have a really hard time, but it's great to build up a customer base, and so, or like a database. And then you take that database and you create a lookalike audience based on that. So now that we talked about audiences and you have a high quality audiences, it's really important that you don't fuck up your campaign with the wrong bidding strategy. So if you launch a campaign on Facebook, all the advertisers want one thing, and that is high quality impressions. So when you just launch a campaign, you kind of have to outperform your competitors, right? So you're essentially joining a worldwide auction, and what Facebook has to offer to you is ad space, placements. So how does bidding actually work? So let's say you want to sell a handbag. So what Facebook does is looking at the target audience who might be potentially interested in buying that handbag over there. And it segments it into buckets. Just put here 6 for the sake of simplicity. So the algorithm scans an audience and sees like, okay, bucket number 1, those people are most likely to buy that handbag based on all the pixel data that Facebook is gathering, all the data Facebook has about its audiences. Then bucket 2 is still great, but they might purchase, and then bucket 3, somewhat likely to purchase. So you see a different quality in audiences, and really the audiences literally get segmented. So what do you want to do, or what do you want to have? You want to get into bucket 1 with your ads and at the cheapest price possible. And if campaigns don't convert, one of the reasons might be because you're just reaching out to the wrong people. They might be still interested in a handbag, for example, but they cannot buy it because they cannot afford it, for example. So really try to go for premium audiences on Facebook. Now, looking at bidding, there are 2 different strategies. We have automatic bidding, where Facebook sort of does all the bidding for you in the background. And then you have manual bidding, where you have to set the bid. Now, both bidding strategies have their pros and cons. The cool thing about automatic bidding, it's a great strategy if you're just starting out, and you will not run into delivery issues if the bid is slightly off. But you also have less control. So that's what we suggest is go for manual bidding. The only question is, what's the perfect bidding strategy? What should you do? Now, there are different strategies. One say you start really low at the, really very, very low, and then you slowly increase the bid. Others say you start really high and then you slowly decrease it. Here's what I suggest. Go for a maximum bid and start with 3 to 4 times the suggested bid. Now, don't worry, you will not end up paying, I think we have here like 100 euros for a conversion, but you just tell Facebook, hey, a conversion is really worth that much for me. And here's what happens if you do this bidding strategy. With automatic bidding, the bid will go up for your competitors, right? So at a certain point, campaigns might not be profitable anymore. And with manual bidding, kind of the same thing will happen. So either the bidding will also go up, or if the bidding is set too low, your competitors will run into delivery issues. So you're kind of forcing, in the best case scenario, your competitors to move to other demographics. Bidding, hugely important. And also one more thing you should definitely consider, the budget should be 5 to 10 times based on the suggested bid. 5 to 10 times based on the suggested bid. Because the thing is, if your budget is too low, if the algorithm cannot do its job the right way. The algorithm works in 2 phases. It starts with gathering data, and then it optimizes. So gathers the data first, and then it optimizes. So if your budget is limited, but if you go for a really high bid, you just run out of budget. So the algorithm just cannot do its job the right way. And also really important, this is the general rule. If you have an ad set that works, don't touch it. Even though the bid is the least harmful thing to change, don't touch an ad set that is working. That's what we don't do. If you have something that works, don't play around with the bidding trying to lower it. Don't do it. Now, talking about bidding and ad sets, let's take a look at the ad set level, and we're still within the launch phase. Now, even though Maria said that, fuck relevance score, it's not that important, there is still a correlation between a high relevance score and a campaign that you can scale. So just short recap what the relevance score is. The relevance score is basically telling Facebook and you as an advertiser how relevant an ad is for a target audience. And that will determine the delivery of your ad. Not only whether your ad will get really pushed, but also whether you're going to get those premium placements. So the relevance score you're looking at is at least an 8, 9, or 10. This is like really good score to have. Now the thing is, the relevance score gets calculated based on positive and negative feedbacks that the algorithm gathers about your ad. And Jason Agatov just said that before. He talked about those positive and about those negative signals. So if your ad gets very little positive signals but a lot of negative signals, your relevance score drops. And at the end of the day, your CPM goes up and your CPCs go up, so you cannot have a profitable campaign. Now here's the thing, how do you actually get to a high relevance score? Of course it's things like hitting the right target audience and having just great ads in place, but there's one more thing you can actually do, and that is increasing user engagement for your ad. And here's a really cool strategy. Write that one down. Before you start your conversion campaign, for example, before you start selling an e-com product or before you start generating leads, you start off with a page post engagement campaign to warm up your ad, to get positive signals, to get some social proof. You do that for 2 to 3 days, and after you've done it, you take that social proof over to a conversion campaign. You keep the page post engagement campaign running at about 20 to 30% of the spend of the conversion campaign, and you watch the relevance score. You start to slowly phase out the engagement campaign, but if you see that the relevance score is dropping for whatever reason, you can turn back on the engagement campaign to get more positive signals to your ad. And by the way, if you're running campaigns in the e-com business, it can definitely happen that you will get your best conversions, not from a conversion campaign, but from the engagement campaign, because just a totally different campaign goal. So really deploy this hack, it really works. 2 to 3 days page post engagement campaign, then a conversion campaign on top of that, and you take over the positive signals from the engagement campaign over to the conversion campaign. And if you want to go like super pro, one more thing you can do, you can layer a like campaign on top of that. You just had a call I think a month ago with our Facebook rep, and she said Facebook doesn't really like campaigns. They want you to build up your fan pages organically with great content, but still a like campaign definitely helps to get more positive signals, not only from your ad, but from your fan page, because the algorithm is really considering signals coming in from everywhere. So the more positive signals you have, the better you're off. Now, key elements for a Rockstar creative, last thing in the launch phase. Now, just one more thing that came into my mind when I was listening to the talks. The thing is, and I just actually realized that before, like as marketers, especially if you run Facebook ads, you completely lose any human connection with your target audience. I mean, there's a computer in front of you, then you have volume setup, you have the power editor, and you're looking at so many different metrics. At the end of the day, and this is why many campaigns suck, people work on the data level a lot, but they totally forget that they're still reaching out to people. Being in literally in every place you can imagine, different places at different times with a different emotional state, with different interests, with different objects, and at the end of the day, we're also getting targeted by ads, of course, if we are on Facebook. But this is what we forget as advertisers, but essentially not as users, because if the ad is shitty, we tend to complain, or we don't want to click on it. So, my background, as Eric mentioned, it's not only Facebook ads, it's building sales funnels. And the thing that we're missing very often, even if we work with large corporations like with Kingston, for example, the thing is that literally every company forgets that marketing is about changing a status quo. A person is at point A and they want to get to point B. They're just not happy with what their status is. They're looking at transformation. So before we build out funnels, we're actually looking on the product strategy first, trying to figure out if they have products in place that can make the transformation happen. And if it's not the case, then you cannot build a profitable funnel, because at the end of the day, the funnel is just the packaging of your products. And the same thing applies to an ad. You want to show that transformation in different forms, and to get better results with your ads, there are a few things that you can do. Just want to mention it. So the first thing to consider is keyword penalties. There are certain words that the algorithm doesn't want to see. For example, the words weight loss or fat. There are little hacks that you can deploy. For example, if you use, and I think I can say that Maria is on the plane to Ibiza, so we'll not hear it. If you use the Cyrillic alphabet, for example, and if you write the word fat, the algorithm doesn't realize it in the first place, but it just looks almost the same. So you can just hack it a little bit by using a different alphabet. But still, keyword penalties are important, because those ads get kicked out immediately. So look at the language that you're using. Second thing, call to actions. I mean, everybody's saying that, but if I'm looking at ads, not every ad has a call to action. Thing is, people are avoiding decisions at all costs, and very often they don't know what to do at all. So if you run an ad, you want them to click on it or to register for a webinar, tell them exactly what you want them to do. Use call to actions in your ad text. Use an additional hyperlink in your ad text. If you look at email campaigns or the emails that you receive, there's very often not only one hyperlink there, or one link to an offer or wherever it goes. There are multiple links in it, and you can actually do the same thing with ads. If you look at ads from different advertisers, there are short form ads, but there are also ads with a long form copy. And in that case, they're using multiple hyperlinks, and that is increasing conversion rates. Next thing, use an existing post ID. Don't start an ad from scratch. If you have a converting ad, you want to move it over to another campaign, use the social proof that this ad has gathered. And then don't underestimate the value of the first comment, and also monitor the comments that your ad is receiving. Don't forget that people are not only reading your ad, they also read the comments at the bottom of the ad. So if you're going for an audience that's a little bit skeptical, they read the comment, and if the first comment is negative, they might end up not buying, not clicking on the ad. So really make sure that the first and ideally the second comment on an ad is positive. And just a few more things. If you run videos, use subtitles. Most people view their videos without sound, so use subtitles in videos. Another cool hack, create vertical videos. because what you want to occupy is the prime spot within Facebook, which is the newsfeed. And if you look at average scroll times within the Facebook newsfeed, it's like dropping from year to year. Last year it was at 2.8 seconds, and this year it's at 1.8 seconds, so it's a second less. So if you place a video vertically, your ad takes more space, right? So it has a higher visibility. And what's really important that you take away a few pixels from the ad because from the video, otherwise when you click on it, it will go to full screen and not take you to the next page. So if you work with vertical videos, take away a few pixels, and then at the end of the video, you should have an arrow pointing at what you want the user to do. Click on this ad, subscribe, join here. Really a huge conversion rate booster. So that was the launch phase. Now let's look at the next phase, how to scale. Now, the big question is, what will make you happier? Running an ad with a $50 budget at 100% ROI or a $1,000 budget at 25% ROI? It's definitely the $1,000. So here's the thing, how do you actually scale? There's a lot of people who just get that, but then they have something that works and they just kill it because they scale it in the wrong way. Now, there are different scaling strategies, actually 3 of them, and I'll show you those strategies just now, also what to do and what not to do. The first one is you have an ad that's working and you want to increase the budget. Here's how you do it. Every 2 to 3 days, you increase the ad spend by 20 to 30%. But it's really important, 20 to 30% in every 2 to 3 days. If you scale too aggressively, the algorithm gets confused because it was like, dude, you told me to optimize the campaign with like $100 and suddenly you want me to spend like 1,000? Like, what the hell? So really make sure that you increase the budget by 20 to 30% every 2 to 3 days. And wait those 2 to 3 days because the algorithm needs time to readjust. It's just a different game. Also, if you change the budget, don't do it throughout the day. Ideally, you should do it after midnight of your account time zone. The closer to midnight, the better, because after midnight, I don't have like any information about that, but I guess like it's within the first 1 or 2 hours. Facebook knows how many placements there are out there, how many impressions Facebook could potentially deliver, and then it looks at how many advertisers we have, how much do they want to spend. So they match both the placements and the advertisers and how much they want to spend. So if you do it throughout the day, you just confuse the algorithm. That's why you should do it within the first, like the closer to midnight, the better. So the algorithm knows exactly, okay, boom, you're going to spend like $300 and probably you will not touch it. That's method 1. Method 2 is also sweet. You duplicate an ad set that works and you just run it with the same or with a higher budget. Cool thing about this strategy is exactly what I said before. If you duplicate an ad set, you're not touching an ad set that works. With the other method, you're touching it. With this method, you don't. So if you have something, duplicate it, and if necessary, just increase the budget or keep it at the same budget. That's how you scale. And the third one is, not that you have to do it, but this is a method many advertisers don't know about. You can scale on the ad set level, but you can also scale on the ad account level. So just as all of us in this room, we all have a different past. And also every ad account has a different past. It has a different history. And that's why you will see if you have one campaign that is like working really well within one ad account, if you take it to another ad account, you will see different results, mostly. So scale across different ad accounts on Facebook. I mean, especially if you're running campaigns at larger scale, that's a method you should definitely consider. Now, Maria mentioned that before also during the talk, but I just want to emphasize it when we look at, audience overlap and scaling. Now, the risk is, let's say you have like a really small lookalike audience in a smaller country like Germany. So you go for a 1% lookalike, you have like, let's say 300,000 inside that lookalike, and then you have 10 ad sets all going after the same lookalike with a high budget. Here's what happens. You have an audience overlap or competing ad sets. Like all the ad sets as kind of separate entities within that campaign, they all want to go for that one audience. And they kind of the prices will go up because ad set 1 will say like, hey, I will spend like $3 for a click. And ad set 2 has to go higher. It will say like, okay, I'm adding 1 more cent to it, and so on and so on. So really be careful with an audience overlap, and also, your price can go up, your CPC or CPM, but what might also happen that your campaigns just stop delivering. You will not get any impressions. So here's what you should do. First of all, go for larger audiences. That's the best way, the best thing to do to avoid audience overlap. And second of all, change the age range slightly. So let's say you have like 3 ad sets all going for the same audience. Ad set 1, age range 18 to 40. Ad set 2, 19 to 41. And ad set 3, you go for 20 to 42. This is how you can alleviate the risk of having an audience overlap and really test what works. I told you preferred method is number 2, but if you have an ad that is like not taking off completely, you might try scaling it at like 20 to 30% of the budget that you spend. So deploying method 1, or if you have something that really works, you might think of blowing it up. If you have the balls to do it, and you have an ad that works at $100 a day, you might take it to like $2K and see what happens. So that's about scaling. Now the last phase is optimizing. Now here's a really low-hanging fruit. I always wonder why so many advertisers are not doing it. Answer comments on your ads. And there are 2 ways how you can do it. The first one is, especially if you're building a brand, just interact with people as if they would send you an email. They ask a question, you answer it in the comments. But there is another way, especially if you run e-com offers. Post your affiliate link, the link to the offer, underneath each and every comment. You would be surprised how much revenue you will make in addition to that just from the product links that you post underneath an ad. And also a cool side effect, if you post something, people usually respond to it, meaning they like it or they comment on it. And so your relevance score goes up again, and then you have these positive consequences of like a lower CPC and a lower CPM. So really, if you run ads, apart from really watching your comments, as I mentioned before, negative comments, especially if it's the first one, it harms your click-through rate, your ROI. Post product links underneath each and every comment, or at least just answer these comments. It definitely helps. And now the second ROI booster is retargeting, and that's the last thing that we'll focus on now within the optimization part. Now, for those of you who don't know what retargeting is, just a quick recap. There's a miraculous Facebook pixel behind every website that deploys retargeting, so it gathers data about the entire customer journey. And depending on where a customer is stuck, you can reach out to them. For example, if they added a product to cart but didn't purchase it, you can reach out to them again, you can re-engage them. So how do you do retargeting right? The first thing is go for traffic and not for conversions, which seems counterintuitive because I started off one campaign by going after conversions and then I'm going after traffic. Why do I do that? Because like the conversion goal didn't change. It's still conversions that I want. But the thing is that with a retargeting campaign, you're not hitting up strangers, you're re-engaging with an existing audience. And that audience is not cold, it is warm. And since you want to have more reach, go for traffic and not for conversions. And quick side note, on the bidding side of things, you can go really crazy with the click price. Show Facebook that you really want the click. You can play with bids of like, let's say $10 per click and really tell Facebook, hey, I really want to reach out to that audience. I want to engage with them. I really want to go for the premium segments of it. So if you do a retargeting campaign, this is what many people do. Don't go for conversions, go for traffic. Second thing, test different audiences. Just as you should test them with building lookalikes, test them when you do retargeting. You will see that the last 3 days, the last 7 days, and the last 30 days, or maybe 180 might perform differently. Especially in the B2B space where you have like really long sales cycles. You have to stalk people over like 3, 4, 5, 6 months until you can really close the deal or until the lead is like warmed up sufficiently so that the lead quality is kind of high. So in the B2B space, retargeting for 180 days might be the route to go. In other niches, in the e-com space, for example, people don't remember like who you were like 180 days ago. That's like half a year. Like the attention span that people have on Facebook when they click on offers, it's like very, very little. That's why 3 and 7 days, 30 days, that's what you should definitely test. And look at different funnel stages. Now, you can of course create a retargeting campaign of all the people who landed on the landing page but didn't convert. But you can also go like deeper into the funnel and look at, for example, all the people who hit the add to cart button and add their payment information but didn't purchase. Especially if your budget is limited, you can just reach out to those people because they're just a higher quality audience. The first said like, no, that's nothing for me. But the second audience, they were just deeper into the funnel and they said like, yeah, I really want this. Okay, payment details, add to cart, but then they didn't buy. So really be aware of what audience you're going after. Then, if you work with the Google Tag Manager, a pixel usually gets fired right away, but when you work with the Google Tag Manager, you can delay when the pixel gets fired, but by let's say like 10,000 milliseconds. So especially if your website is getting a lot of traffic or your budget is like kind of limited, you can go for like higher quality retargeting audience with a bounce rate that's relevant. There are many people who just go on the page and say like, it's nothing for me. But if you have a retargeting audience, if you go after people who stay on your page for a certain amount of time, that's just a higher quality audience. So Google Tag Manager and just triggering the event a little later is perfect. And then 2 more things. Follow up with an appropriate offer. Don't work with reminders. Provide an incentive, like a discount, just like in this example here. And even though your ad has to be different, don't lose the memory or branding effect that you want to accomplish. So you really want to have this effect of like, okay, so I clicked on this ad and then I went to this landing page and they hit the add to cart button, but then I didn't buy it for whatever reason. I think, yeah, the product was at like 20% too, like more expensive than I actually wanted to pay. You want to get people to think like when they see the ad again, it's like, fuck, yeah, I wanted to buy it, but it's like, it was too expensive, but now they're offering me this 20% discount. That's the memory effect you want to accomplish. People shouldn't have the feeling like, here's a completely brand new ad, I have never seen these guys. That's like another cold pitch that I'm getting on Facebook on a daily basis. Really, really important. And especially for higher ticket items, go after re-engagement. Like as I said before, in the B2B space, longer sales cycles, use retargeting, re-engage with people, especially with high-ticket items where people have to sleep over it like a couple of nights. They're like, oh, I saw this really amazing coaching program, but I never heard about this guy. So what can you do? You can just push case studies, testimonials into them, just getting rid of all the objections that they have, adding social proof to it, adding scarcity to it. So don't go only with hey, you've been at the add to cart stage and you just didn't buy. Do you want to buy now? Depends on the product. If it's a high ticket product, re-engage with that audience by serving them relevant content in different forms. It could be a blog article, it could be a video, but use it strategically. Don't give them just content for the sake of giving content. Like if you look at the content consumption in our world nowadays, people are getting more and more strict about what they read. So just don't bullshit them with content to trigger Cialdini's reciprocation. Like, oh, I got something cool from you and now I'll buy. Use it in a strategic way. Understand why you want to deliver that content in the form of an ad to increase conversions for the product, for the service that you're selling. And last thing, work with messenger ads. You can build a chatbot on top of that, but here's just something that we did for this event. That's an ad that I saw from Digital Marketer. Have questions about Digital Marketer Lab and how it can help you grow your business? Facebook chat with one of our specialists to get your question answered. We're happy to help. So we kind of took that ad and we just translated it into German, and we start reaching out to the people who have been on our sales page for this event, which isn't the best, like didn't have time, so could have done a better job with that. So we thought like, okay, probably they're like lacking information, there is something that we didn't answer, so let's just re-engage with them. Let's just create an extra human touch point. And here's what happened. We just set up this ad and it just worked. We made a couple of sales using that ad. We had a CPA of $10 just by saying like, hey, send us a message, do you have any questions? And you will be surprised if you work with messenger ads what tiny things they are. I was thinking like, okay, probably we will have to engage with people in like a really deep talk about this conference. But there was one guy, for example, maybe he's sitting here, he was like, hey, can I talk to the speakers after the event? And we were like, yeah, sure, yes. And boom, bought the ticket. So very often there are just little tiny objections that you didn't answer on the sales page. And here's your chance to answer them in a messenger ad. Reach out to them, and also don't expect people to reach out to you. People are getting pitched on a daily basis with offer after offer after offer. You have to be the one who starts a conversation. You can do that with a messenger ad, with a chatbot on top of that, but really get people involved into a conversation. Messenger ads are really the route to go, in my opinion, especially if you combine them with retargeting campaigns. Now, covered a lot of stuff, so that's it. Just remember 3 phases: launch, scale, optimize. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll see you later for drinks.